Well, I think we're good to go. Welcome to the human game, my friend. I want to give you an introduction, a nice introduction. You're one of the most impactful people in my life. And it's your first time on the podcast. I think this is going to be first of like 50 because I see us talking about so many different things. And so you're someone that specializes in movement. I mean, we resonate on a ridiculous amount of topics, but movement, the human body, you're essentially a master of.
Too kind.
To some respect. I mean, of course, we know we're humble. We got a fucking plane above us because we're outside. But there's levels to mastery, right? And I think that it's incredible what you've accomplished so far. So I'm excited to have a conversation with you, bro.
Yeah, thank you, brother. It's definitely been a journey that I love because it's one of those journeys that never ends. The body has many levels to it.
It does.
And the first level for me was just trying to get out of pain.
Yeah.
And that took a while. Mm-hmm. But it's nice once you get past that level and start to build some strength, you can really start to have some fun and go after some of those skills. The reason I got into movement in the first place was because I saw these dudes like Chris Heria doing front levers and planches and handstand push-ups, and there was something in me that just needed to have that experience. So I got pretty obsessed with it. It's been my daily obsession over the past 6 or 7 years. So
Daily for 6-7 years.
Yeah.
I was just showing you earlier how I had a YouTube channel. 7 years ago I was posting fitness videos. A lot of people don't know that. And I originally thought, you know what? I lost 125 pounds. And I thought, I want to help people with this. And it's funny, I've been working on the Trump impression. And now I'm noticing how I never said, and I thought, but he says that, right? And I said, to say, and then I said, and I can notice how now I'm doing that.
Becoming one with Mr. Trump.
Yeah, I still got some work on it, but yeah, movement without pain. I mean, I already have been working out for, 7-8 years and getting my body together, lost all that weight. And then recently I had my knee have issues and we talked about it, and it's incredible what okay, here's the thing that people don't realize. The idea in our society is that if you're hurting, you should rest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And what you've blown my mind with multiple things on is how my elbow was a level of completely sketched out. We're moving it more in certain patterns, and it gets better. Not resting it. I know that there's the opposite side of too much movement, and then there's the breakdown. But it's like moving more is what's helping it. Like, if you're seeing the visual, I'm going to stand up right now. Okay, you can see me in the camera. Jax is right there, but we were doing movements like this movement, right? Mm-hmm. With the knees over the toes.
Yeah.
And I had pain on the top of my knee. And you had me come up. This is right?
Yeah.
Coach me.
Yeah.
This is
you
right.
Want the heels to come up, knees over toes.
Yeah.
Like you were saying.
And I did that 50 times, and I was having knee problems. I couldn't walk that much. For the first time in my life, I haven't really had knee problems ever. And then it was like the pain went away. And I'm just like, these are the hacks that we need to know.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That movement in particular has been a game changer for, like I was telling you, I had my mom try that one. She was telling me a similar story of knee pain, and I've actually used it on myself too, where there's a pain point when you go to a certain depth, and so you find that pain point, you back off a little bit, and then you just perform some pulsing repetitions in that pain-free range of motion and work with where you're at, get some blood flow, get some activation, build some strength, and you can see even instantaneously the pain vanishes.
It's crazy.
With that movement in particular, that one's amazing. And when you crack the code on the knee, you also have the elbow, because they're both hinge joints. They move the same way. So same idea, like we were doing those skull crushers with your elbow, when you go pretty deep, you might experience a little bit of pain, which is fine. You know, going a little bit into that pain is healthy, just to give the body a healthy amount of stress just for a moment. You don't want to keep going into that pain too often, but then you back out and you just work that pain-free range of motion, and next thing you know,
you get stronger.
Yeah, next thing you know, that range of motion will expand over time. And yeah, it's definitely, I like to err on the side of movement rather than rest. 100%.
Yeah, I've had elbow pain for most of my adult life. And especially even the movement of the tricep behind the body, it's...
Yeah, the extension.
Yeah, and the skull crusher is what you're talking about too. Works that it's one of the heads. We're talking about one of the heads of the tricep being here, right?
Yeah. So
when you're coming back, if you strengthen, we're talking about if you strengthen this, near the elbow, that head near the elbow, then that elbow pain goes away because that's weak, right? That's what we're saying.
Yeah, pain is usually a sign of weakness or instability, tightness, but yeah, it all kind of stems back to a potential weakness or a dormant muscle that just needs activation. When you activate every muscle in the body, there's a pretty good chance you're going to relieve a lot of pain points. A lot of us, you know, the lifestyle that we find ourselves, we're just sitting. That was really my story during college. I just sat on my ass for 4 years and took my body and athleticism for granted, and next thing I knew, it was gone and I was in pain. Every single joint in my body had pain, and the number one cause of that was not moving enough and activating every muscle. So yeah, with the elbow, those two movements are really complementary, because for the extension, you're working it in the shortened range of motion, and then for the overhead stuff or the skull crusher, you're working it in a more long range of motion. So that's usually a good thing you can look for, is if you can work it in both long and short ranges of motion, you're going to create a complete activation of all the different muscle fibers throughout the full range. And yeah, full range of motion is great, but sometimes it's pretty difficult to create, to have that really solid coordination right off the bat. So focusing on a partial range of motion at the top, partial range of motion at the bottom, and then completing it, next thing you know, you have coordinated strength. I'm a big fan of coordination, like we've talked about, because that's when you activate that intuition, that just knowing in your body of how to move. Nobody has to teach you perfect form or optimal movement. You just know it because you feel it. That's what I like to get people going on, because I think we all have this innate ability to move our bodies. We're human beings. You know, we're like any other animal. But we can forget how to move. And mainly it's not forgetting how to move, it's losing trust in our ability to move. That was something I noticed in myself, was all of a sudden I didn't trust myself to do these basic movements. Even walking down a hill would feel all awkward and cause me pain. And I had to rebuild that trust over time and start really, really small. I'd look on the internet and I'd try to follow along with these coaches, and it seemed like everything they recommended was causing me more pain, because I wasn't tuning into my body at first. I was trying to do what they recommended because it was optimal, because it was perfect form, but in actuality I needed to regress it to a level that suited my body. And what that looked like for me was literally isometric activations where you're not even moving, just creating a mind-muscle connection in a stable position, middle range of motion, not trying to get all fancy with mobility right off the bat, just focusing on the middle, most simple range of motion that you can possibly access, and activating, creating a mind-muscle connection with every muscle involved in that movement. And then starting with really, really small pulse ranges, pulsing movements. So I'm all for full range of motion. I think it's great, but I think a lot of people who have been stagnant for a long time, you need to regress it back to that baby step of basic isometrics and pulsing repetitions.
Because some people aren't even working the muscles that they're trying to work because there's no connection to it. I mean, That was a big problem for me.
Exactly.
Especially with my lats. It's like, I wanted to get that taper going, but if I'm just like hauling on the lat pull down, I mean like fucking just pulling, but you're using so many other muscle groups. It's like hard to find. This is the nuance, right? You're finding connection, but you're also not needing it to be. It's like you're finding the contraction is more what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like if you're just hauling, you're not a lot of times contracting as much as you could. Like, for example, I can go like this, and I put my arms up and I can feel my lats contracting. And before I started, we started getting after it, I couldn't really like do that fully. And then I can do that with the serratus too in the front, and it's like, it's very profound because then it's like you're in a game, right? The human game, and you can flex every muscle on command. And it's like, now I can use my controller good now.
Yeah.
Because before it's like some of these you can't even connect to. Like, can you fucking flex your ass just sitting here, right?
That's a big one.
And the glutes were a problem for me too. And there's still an area where I'm working up on that. But you get what I'm saying, yeah?
Yeah, I love that analogy. It's like activating your controller. If your controller is malfunctioning or inactive, certain buttons aren't activated, then yeah, of course you're not going to be able to control your character as well. So the glutes are a big one for many people. And the serratus, I love that you got that serratus activated because the serratus is involved in a lot of upper body movements, and it's kind of that.
And we're talking about the serratus, it being the muscle on the side of your ribs. Trying to think of how to describe it, not scientifically.
Yeah, it's kind of underneath the armpit, going into the ribs.
In the front.
Yeah. And so, yeah, for pushing, pulling, it's kind of that connection with your core to your shoulder. That's kind of one way to think about it. If you're punching, you're going to be using your serratus. So if you're doing push-ups and your serratus isn't activating, or, I mean, even my front delt wasn't really activating because I had some wrist issues when I was first starting out. So I noticed I don't even know what I was doing, but that was a funny moment for me when I realized, yeah, that mind-muscle connection is important. Because if you're not using certain muscles that are required to do a movement, then you're going to compensate taking that load to accessory muscles, compensations, and then you start to just kind of, that's when you get that soreness the next day, which is not the kind of soreness that you want. It's like a joint soreness. Bro, you feel it.
What you just said is so important because I was fucked for so long because of that. Because I had a dirt bike accident, and so part of the reason why it's been so hard for me to work out is because my left side, starting at my shoulder, you've seen when I take my shoulder or take my shirt off, my clavicle sticks out of my shoulder. Like it looks still a little bit separated, and it kind of is technically. And so what happened during the accident, the biggest thing that I ran into was my back not working correctly. And you saw that when we started to work together. It's like, can you actually move your back correctly in the ways that it's supposed to, right? In retraction and protraction. It's like I couldn't even do that. And so what was happening was I wasn't working correctly, and then I would go to do movements that involved it, and then those intrinsic muscles, the smaller muscles in the trap, would take on the load that usually the rhomboids would take on, or other muscles in the back. And so it's like, and if I wasn't using my lats, then that's all going to go to my trap. And then every time I would work out, I would have massive neck pain afterward. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, no matter what I did, I followed all the PT exercises they told me to do, and it didn't get better. PT fucking sucks in a lot of ways. I'll just say it what it is, because they're not addressing the whole body. And I went to school for kinesiology. I went to college for kinesiology. I got all the way to the end of my degree. And then I had a physical therapy internship. So I have experience, like in a PT clinic, watching what they're doing and also being a patient. So when I say that they suck, I can say it from a place of I've watched it for months as a student, and I've seen how that was, honestly, bro, this is one of the biggest reasons why I stopped doing the fitness stuff, was because I noticed, well, at least in the collegiate setting, in the educational setting, because I was going to go be a physical therapist. Like I was going to continue down that path. I wanted a doctorate. And it was funny. I remember this conversation with one of the heads at the school, and I was like, I wanted to be a doctor. I just felt like I wanted to be a doctor. And I was like, what is the degree that takes the least amount of schooling? She was like, PT.
Yeah.
And I was like, interested in strength and conditioning. And I was like, well, if I can help people who are in strength and conditioning heal, because I felt like I had like a part of me that wanted to help people heal in some respect, then that sounded good. And so then I went and I saw it, and I noticed how I was asking PTs, hey, bro, like, how long has this client been here? It's like 3 years.
Oof.
And it's like, for the same thing? Yeah. They just keep coming back. Yeah. And you're like, wait. So you're creating reoccurring customers. You're not like maybe there are PTs that are absolutely killing it and they're doing amazing things. And I'm not saying this is a blanket statement. There's always going to be some that are doing it in untraditional ways to that. So I just want to say that. But I think it's bizarre how it's bizarre, but then I understand it, that they're doing that because it makes them money. And at the end of the day, it's more of a for-profit thing. That's what I noticed, rather than actually trying to help people. For the most part, and from my experience and then other people I've talked to, it's the same thing. And we see that in many different industries, though. That's human nature in the evolution of the consciousness that we're experiencing, is that humans are still kind of in that phase of it's more about what I get rather than like, what is the cost of what I'm doing to the other person? Doesn't matter as much. And I think we're kind of moving into that space where it actually does matter what happens to the other person. And then ironically, what we notice is that if we help other people, we actually get more business. Mm-hmm. Because I think the universal intelligence notices that we're actually being morally good, and we're connecting to what Plato would call the idea of the good, absolute good. And so if we're connected to that, I think we're supported in that endeavor. And then we don't have that back in the back of our mind, oh, well, I'm kind of helping them, but I like the business, you know? And that's in therapy too. I mean, my mom's a social worker, and I see how people in that industry do the same shit. You know, they're just getting reoccurring clients. And a lot of people complain about that when they go to therapy, and it's just like this talk therapy, actually talking about it and not taking action results in just a continual process of festering. And that also got me into this too. It's like seeing that in comparison with the physical. It's like, what's beyond? You know, in the body. I think what you're doing, I think, to tie it around, what you're doing with the physical is actually healing people, right? It's allowing them to move naturally better. And I think we're moving as a society more into a place where natural movement is the name of the game, instead of being in these stone-walled buildings. Not even stone, right? Whatever the fuck it is. We're in these buildings just like lifting in very, very strict planes of motion that don't mimic anything natural. And then moving more into the natural environment of the trees, and moving more into doing movements where, you know, you're crouching, you're moving like you would naturally. Mm-hmm. And they actually serve a function rather than becoming a fucking cloud. Like we see a lot of these dudes on steroids, right? They look like clouds, especially the guys doing Mr. Olympia. Don't they look like clouds? What I'm saying is their muzzles are so round, it looks like they're a fucking cloud.
It doesn't look very comfortable.
Comfortable, yes, bro.
And yeah, so I'm all about aesthetics. I think we all want to look good, but also feeling good and moving good. Yeah, has to be part of the equation, and moving well for a lifetime. Into our, you know, I want to be 90 years old and maybe still doing backflips and shit.
Well, that's the difference between you and these a lot of bodybuilding types. See, people who take steroids think, hey, I'm going to sacrifice my body, because they have to know on some level that this shit is bad for them. And they're going to sacrifice it to be the best that they can be. That's the thought. I want to be the greatest. But it's like, bro, I mean, we got to look at the reality of the situation. You're basically killing yourself in order to, for a certain amount of years, have a ton of muscle. Just to have other guys be like, yeah, this guy's jacked. But like, for what though? Mm-hmm. Like, I actually do have kind of a problem. I would say I have a problem with the bodybuilding industry. And I'm not perfect. You know, I have a lot of shit to work on, but I think that I've always been against the steroid culture, and I've always been against the idea of doing male pageants, which is basically what fucking... Isn't that what bodybuilding is, though? I mean, you go on stage and other dudes tell you, hey, you look good, bro. Like, you're the most... And I think it's too much. I'll give some compliments, though, to that industry. If you're going to do it, I like how they did men's physique. I like how they did the idea of it being a more aesthetic kind of beach body, like natural. It's supposed to be natural, but is it really? That's another conversation. But I think, if anything, there needs to be more voices who are for natural movement, these things, not only functional, but if you want to be aesthetic, then great, but it's not just about long-term, it's about, especially in the area we're in, it's like, well, what are the spiritual consequences of steroid injection? What are these consequences that nobody's talking about? What are the mind consequences when you hear Israel talking about how he has thoughts of war all the time? It's like...
I think he's spreading some really good awareness on the reality of steroids. It's really, I mean, I love how he just owns it. And he says, yeah, you know, for certain people, it makes sense. You have to be really careful. It's kind of like revving your engine on, you know, to the red line for a while. And so I think it is missing a certain point that I like to focus on, which is the enjoyment of movement and moving and strength training for the sake of enjoyment. Like we were talking about this morning, what does Plato call it? The idea of eros, and, you know, you're making love to the moment, making love to the movement.
Yeah.
And there's so much enjoyment to be had from a really strong movement practice, where you get the opportunity to be in a flow state for hours if you want. I know a lot of people, they want to do the minimalist route, and I definitely like to offer that to people. You know, it can be really simple. It can be really efficient. Just a few movements, a few sets, get activated, get out. But also, I think it's one of the most enjoyable activities that a human can do in this body. And so let's move not for the sake of not solely for the sake of aesthetics. I think I'm all about it. You know, I think it's fine to want to look a certain way, look your best. When you look good, you feel good, and you can raise that level of confidence. But I think that'll be a natural side effect of creating a practice that you enjoy. When you enjoy something, you can be consistent with it. When you're consistent with it, you get the results. And that's why I really like the idea of going really low weight at the start, high repetition. You get that opportunity to build coordination with these movements and really get in that flow state. And then when you can build that coordination, then it becomes really fun. You know, you start to feel athletic. You start to feel like a natural, like you're in your element. And then it's addicting, man. It's the best high on earth. It really is. And yeah, that's just a different perspective on it, you know, rather than forcing, you know, going more of a Wu Wei style, effortless action. And when you have energy, use it, go until your body says rest, and go with the movements that your body is attracted to. So the movements that feel good for your body, with the styles and variations of that movement that feel good for your body, rather than placing too much weight on external opinion. And I'm all for it. There's some really brilliant coaches out there that have amazing perspectives, but when anybody says this is the best way or the only right way, then just be wary, because there's going to be variations for every individual, and it's so important to tune in to what feels right for you in every area of life. And I think movement is a big one, because we have different anatomical structures that we need to account for. And always just bringing it back to enjoyment. If you're doing the movements that you enjoy, they're probably going to be pretty effective as well.
You don't think there's a best? You don't think there's a best? I have the best movements. this is how you move, like this. I swear to God, natural movement, though. I mean, here's another point. I think it's amazing to want to be someone who sculpts their body.
Yeah.
That is a valiant quest to undertake.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not to dog on the idea that everything just has to be functional. I mean, I am a functional guy in the sense that, to me, I want to be able to crouch and shoot a bow while crouching and moving.
Yeah.
And so, like, I want to train in that way so that it translates into something. And what you're saying to me, how I feel is, I want the movements to translate. I want to carry a bag in front of me. The strongman carries her, a beautiful way to train.
Mm-hmm.
And so I also understand, let's get some fucking bicep curls. Let's get that fucking lactic acid buildup. Like, it feels so damn good. So it's not to say that it's all bad. It's to say I'm more taking a stand against steroids.
Mm-hmm.
And if people want to compare each other on stage, it literally is a pageant. But if that's what you enjoy, if that's what you feel like is the highest potential that you have, then who am I to tell you that that's a bad thing? So it's not inherently bad. I just think that it can be done in a way that is more harmonious with the human body. And some people don't worry about function because they just want to have all aesthetics. And that's fine. But then you run into the question of why, though? Why do you want to be so aesthetic?
Mm-hmm.
Is it because you're insecure and you're like, hey, if I'm really jacked, I'll get the girl that I want because she'll like me because of the way I look? And then do you become over-reliant on the physical, then you don't train your mind? And so then the mind lacks, and then you get dudes walking around, and that's what the typical meathead, right? That's been a stereotype for how many years?
Mm-hmm.
So we know that exists. And so it's like, what I'm saying is balance. So then how can you balance your functional with the aesthetic? Do the bicep curls, but then also do the farmer's carries. Then also do the other things, or do the holds. Like, this is a functional movement. If you do instead of doing a curl, I was doing this earlier. You grab the 15-pounders and you just hold them here. Because how many times in life are you going to carry shit like this?
Yeah.
A decent amount, So thinking about those things and not intuitive training is really, I think, what we're getting at.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking of when you're describing that. It's a really intuitive movement. Whenever you feel something come online, a certain movement that translates to something, a way that you would like to move in your day-to-day life, then you can reinforce that movement and practice it and build coordination with it, just like any skill.
It's fucking beautiful. That's what it is, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. Like, what we're talking about is a beautiful way of living to me.
Yeah,
I think so. Beautiful, it's like a translation of this to that. It all folds, it all goes together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the mental aspect is huge, and we talked about how when you're practicing intuitive movement and strength training, then you are activating your intuition in general. Intuition is a bodily sensation of knowing. Mm-hmm. And so when you build that, when you practice intuitive strength training, what you're also doing is you're building your sense of intuition in general. That mind, that mental muscle, which is, it doesn't exist in...
It's almost a spiritual muscle.
Yeah.
Metaphysical.
And it translates. I think it's one of those skills that if you can build it over time, you're going to find yourself being guided into situations that are very aligned with your being. Again, rather than trying to force, it's such a beautiful metaphor in that way. Rather than listening to external voices about what other people think is the best way to live or the best way to find happiness, you can tune into what feels true to you and then follow that true north with full faith. And so it is funny how that does carry over, I think, really amazingly. When you start to practice intuitive movement, you can find yourself being more intuitive in other areas of life as well.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
That's profound. And I think it's also speaking to this essence of intuition that you don't really ever hear bodybuilders talk about. When was the last time you heard a popular bodybuilder mention intuition? Very rarely. I don't think I ever have heard. Maybe you have an example.
Not right now.
Okay. So that idea is profound, and I worry about the younger generation just looking up to people who are like, yeah, I take like, it's great that certain people are coming out and saying, yeah, I take steroids. But that also doesn't take away. It's like, yeah, I'm killing myself to look bigger. Okay, you're admitting that you are, which is like a step.
Yeah.
It's a step, but it's like, but why are we doing that anyways? That's another thing. And I get it if you're like 50 and you need TRT because your body is running super low. You know, there are nuanced situations where you might need some of these things, and I'm not trying to blanket it, but I also think that having the conversation about the other aspects of training and how intuition plays into this, and these are actually things that will translate in different ways. Like also, intuition is going to translate when, as a man, you need to make decisions, and you are tapped into your intuition because you're practicing intuition, even in movement, even in how you're moving your body and working out in a sense, quotation marks. That actually is still going to translate to your decision-making ability and trusting yourself. That's what it is, isn't it? It's trusting yourself to make these decisions as to what's best for you.
Yes.
And then it helps you to develop Jax. Jax, my dog, is sitting pretty, mate. But that intuition helps you to trust yourself. And I think at the end of the day, I don't even think anybody's thinking about how taking steroids convolute your ability to think. And maybe Israel is, in terms of war thoughts. And there are other examples, I'm sure, but then that's going to tell you that it's going to change your thoughts. It's going to change the way that thoughts come up in some sense. So then the argument could be made that it's changing your relationship to your intuition through kind of clouding your own judgment.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's not just about looking big. And yeah, I think that this is major key in life.
Yeah, I mean, the body and mind and spirit requires a certain level of balance. And when you're injecting exogenous hormone into your body, then there's a chance that your system might find itself a little out of balance. And
there's a chance,
yeah, and so, like you said, I think that needs to be a really calculated decision. You know, some guys really benefit from it if their testosterone levels are just completely tanked.
But
and first, please try natural means first. Get some sunlight, change up your diet, and just take any natural remedy first. And if you are below 40, then there's so much genetic potential for you to unlock before you need to even think about that stuff. And I would argue that if you build coordinated strength with as many varieties of movement as possible, and you do them over time, and really milk these movements. I mean, I think one issue for people why they might not be seeing the progress that they want to is because they're not doing enough volume. And I started seeing my best results when I started doing at least 10 sets of each movement for that day. And I'm not talking about doing straight to complete failure, leaving a few reps in the tank for sure, because you want to be able to get that volume and you want to maintain, you don't want to compensate. You want to be focusing on activating the muscles that you want to be activating and really making sure that you fatigue them fully. And also doing a second micro workout later in the day, have your first session do those 10 sets and then do another micro sesh in the afternoon. I find around 5 p.m., whether I've had a workout or not, my body's ready to go for another little set or another little session. And so you should have DOMs. I think people say it doesn't really matter about DOMs, delayed onset muscle soreness, but I think it's a pretty good indicator that you've given your body an effective dose to create adaptation. It's not 100%. You can definitely create gains without DOMs, but I think it's a good little, again, it's your body speaking to you, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would give that a shot before steroids. Let's say that. Just bumping up the volume and lowering the weight too. I think we talked about that already, but that's where you can have that opportunity to really build coordination, is when you lower the weight and you bump the reps up. I don't care if you're doing knee push-ups, banded pull-ups.
Dude, I'm still doing knee push-ups.
They're great. I end my session with them all the time because, like I said, you want to fully fatigue that muscle. So there's a lot of limiting beliefs in the fitness industry about the optimal amount of sets, reps, and all this stuff, or like a certain amount of time that you should work out before your testosterone drops. And it's like, no, if you feel it, keep going. If you still got gas in the tank, spend it. And I think that's where I'm at with that whole concept in general.
Yeah, it's like there's different archetypes. I mean, I'm more speaking to the warrior kind of archetype or the fighter archetype. I mean, I have this two things. I have the deep intuition that men are going to need to be capable. And I also have the deep intuition that I want to be capable of doing things. I want to be able to carry the logs, build the boats, baby.
Yeah.
I want to be able to do these things, and I don't want to worry about getting injured and putting my arm, like carrying heavy loads like above my head or doing these things. And so to me, it's worth the sacrifice of like moving in the perfect plane of motion all the time, because life isn't perfect.
Yeah.
And so it's like life's going to require you to do this sometimes, not just this. And so I'm going to train for this. Just like I'm training my mind to be that's why I fucking love Shaolin Qigong, right? It's changing you to, it is a type of training that creates adaptability. And that is what I'm seeking, is adaptability. And I think the more men that have adaptability, the better. And I think that style of training, of not always being in a perfect plane of motion. Like, bro, we were doing the what? Where are the fucking weights? We have the weights here. Are they back here?
There you go.
Give me one of them, boys. I've got these 15 pounders for those just listening. And we're just doing we're just out here like this, right? We're fucking getting it to the beat, put a good ass song on.
Yeah.
And you're just with two weights, know. I don't need the other weight, it's fine. But you get the idea. You're just fucking getting after it. And you were talking about, you did that for 5 minutes and you're fucking tanked.
Yep.
And it's like, that's still getting a good pump. Like, I'm getting a massive pump. Fucking huge pump by doing that. And so... Yeah,
and so with that one in particular, I'll just, since we brought it out, this one's really cool because, you think about a bicep curl, but then you can start changing your grip, and then you go overhand, and then you start bringing it out to the side more, and then you feel your shoulders coming online. And it's like, I don't know what this movement is called, but it feels good.
We can call it a curl flow.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a flexion flow.
And
so it's flexing instead of extending.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the main job of the elbow joint, is to flex. Yeah, for the bicep as in particular. And so letting yourself in a 5-minute session, you're going through all these different variations, and you're feeling the connection. It's really about feeling new muscles come online. That's my favorite moment, which I had one today I was telling you about with my legs, where it's like I discovered a new connection with my body. I felt a muscle come online in a new way that I hadn't before. It's an epiphany moment. It's an aha moment of new discovery and connection. And that's what I live for, because that's just a new unlock in my character, a new ability, a level up. And I love making that the intention rather than trying to base it off of numerical metrics. You can base it off of a new sensation in your body. Making that the intention is like, I want to discover something new in my body today, something that I've never felt before. Maybe you want to go a little more intense. Maybe you want to explore a new range of motion, or just a new activation of a muscle that you've never even felt before. I guarantee you, man, we got a lot of muscles in our body, and there's so many different ways to activate all these different muscles. So that's a big part of my approach, is the more variety you can give the body, the more novel stimulus that you can provide, the more you're going to build that body awareness, the more you're going to build that coordination, intuition. And then I think that's the main difference between the novice and the advanced lifter, strength practitioner, is that it's body awareness. You know, you see those advanced lifters and they just have a deep knowing and a coordinated a sense of coordination, where the novice just needs that time to build that repetition over time. And so, like I said before, starting out really gently in a range of motion that you have access to, rather than trying to force something that you saw online that somebody said was perfect form or optimal. It's like, just work with where you're at, and that range of motion will build over time. Just get activated, bro.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Have fun with it, you know, trust yourself, and the results will come. If you enjoy something, you stay consistent, and the results will come.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I was talking to David, another one of our friends, who will be on a podcast soon, and I'm creating this 30-day challenge that's starting in October, and I have my own ideas of. Obviously, I've went through a lot of transformation in my life to get to this place and that I'm at now, and I feel really good in all aspects. And I still like to ask people around me and people that I know are operating at a high level, like, what are some things? This is what I asked him, because I wanted to create a challenge that was going to help people in as many ways as possible. And it's funny because we had talked, this is after you left earlier. You know, we went out and got coffee and all that. So I just asked him, when you were, struggling, when you were going through it, what are the things that actually helped you to break habits, break negative patterns? Like, what is the most impactful thing that you can do? And he said, working out. And I'm like, such a synchronicity that we're developing the program. He doesn't even know that we're doing that for the challenge. And he said working out. And his reason was because whenever I feel depressed, if I go to the gym and I start lifting, it changes the way that my body feels. And when I change how my body feels, it changes how I feel. Because the neurochemical response that happens from I'm not just talking about the gym. I'm talking about when you move your body. When you move your body in patterns and you work it to a certain amount of fatigue, there's something, there's studies done on this to show that it does release chemicals that stop depression or that alleviate depression in some sense. And I can put that below. But the idea is that working out, and especially moving in ways that feel really beneficial to you, that feel good to you intuitively, it really does play an impact on how you feel in the human game. Like, it's much bigger than what I think a lot of people realize. And if your body is not running optimally, it's going to play such a big factor in how you feel. And so when you see fat people that are complaining about how the world is, it's like, well, how much are you working out? How much are you actually moving your body? How much are you taking care of yourself? And there's a direct correlation with fat people who claim to be victims that are actually playing the victim and saying the world did this to me, when really they're doing it to themselves in some respect. I can say that because I was 125 pounds heavier than I am now. I'm an ex-fat boy in some sense. And so I understand food tastes good, but there's something profound about sculpting your body in a way that really makes your soul feel a sense of fulfillment. And I think that if more people actually went down this path of sculpting their bodies as a high priority, that would in turn result, and that's, I think, one of the biggest attacks on us as humans. It's to get us in a place where we're not doing that, where we're focused on entertainment only, when we're focused on other things and we're not taking care of our body, let alone what they put in the food. Now, food is a whole nother conversation, but the idea of movement in itself being a form of medicine is profound. And if more people realize that, I think it would liberate humanity so much. And that's why I'm so passionate about taking care of the body in many different ways. And one of those big ways is moving. It's walking in the morning. It's feeling the sun in your eyes, setting the circadian rhythm. It's getting in the river, getting your feet on the ground, mate.
Yeah.
You know, these things that people think are cringe, but you can feel a connection to the earth that is undescribable. You can feel, I feel that the earth, I can actually, with Qigong, move the energy in my body. And this is a subjective experience that I can't prove, but I can feel how when I use my intention to move that energy, to breathe in and then breathe it down with my, specifically with my feet on the ground, touching the earth. There is actual movement of energy within the body. And I think that it's been kind of mocked. It's been kind of laughed at that these things are real. And I think that having the conversation about how you aren't relying on anybody else to tell you what's real or not, or what actually is happening. It doesn't even have to be real, because real is subjective. The real is relative. I've said that for years. But to be able to feel things and have experiences that are beyond the explainable is something that I think as humans, as we lean into more, we don't have to rely on the scientific materialism to just tell us, oh, the studies show that when you ground, you're good. Like, it helps. So now I'm going to do it. It's like, wake the fuck up and be a leader. Be someone who's willing to look beyond the narratives of what's been proven, because at one point, nothing was proven.
I love what you just said. That was epic. I think.
And we got some sirens coming in. That's close. We might have to mute. Even Jax is looking around.
So that was epic. That was just, I mean, I couldn't agree more with everything you just said. I've always been such a big fan of, tuning in to what is present within you and around you, rather than tuning into the news or just all this noise that is happening on our screens. And creating the most amazing experience that you can, through intuition again, circling back to that. And there's something about having your feet on the ground that feels right. There's something about having the sun on your skin that feels right. There's something about breathing deeply that feels right. And so, the science, I love science. Science is great. But it can, I think it can, if we put too much weight in it, it can limit our mind in a certain way, rather than just doing what feels right. And the same thing can be said with diet. There's certain things that you have to test and experiment for yourself in order to find out what works for you. And being able to trust yourself in that exploration, being curious, and not relying too much, again, on external opinions. There was one quote that I was looking up really quick about what you were saying. It was, yeah, the ability to move is a gift. It's a celebration of life, an expression of the joy of being alive. There's one more. The joy of exercise is the release, the rhythm, and the energy that flows through your body. It's a reminder of what it feels like to be alive. Like that's beautiful. You know, that's what I feel every single time I get into my practice. I just feel alive. I just feel like, okay, I'm being a human. I am making the most of this human experience. I'm having fun with what I got. I got this body. If I don't need anything else to enjoy myself, that's a pretty cool thing to claim that sense of independence. And yeah, I think one of the greatest assets on earth is a great feeling body to play in, to enjoy.
Boom. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm looking up studies. No.
Yeah, studies are great, man. I don't want to knock studies.
Listen, we like the studies. We like them a lot. So
very informative.
Very informative. Okay, so I'm going to just read a little bit. A large new analysis of meta-studies find that exercise is more beneficial for conditions such as anxiety and depression than standard psychotherapy or medications. The new study found that essentially all forms of exercise produce significant mental health benefits. And so the question is, well, why? Why does that happen? Victoria University's Professor Veso, that last name, Apostolopoulos, yeah, I think I nailed it, who was not involved in the study, told Medical News Today that there is a growing body of research supporting the benefits of exercise. Okay. And it's, quote, through physiological and biochemical mechanisms, including endorphins, mitochondria, mammalian target of rapamycin, neurotransmitters, and the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, and via thermogenic hypothesis. The thermogenic hypothesis suggests that the increase in body temperature that occurs with exercise may reduce muscular tension and alter neuronal activity, thus reducing anxiety. And it just continues to go on. But it's just one example, right?
Yeah. I mean, anandamide is one of my favorite chemicals that gets released during movement.
Tell me.
Ananda, meaning in Sanskrit, meaning bliss. And it's one of the 5 neurochemicals that's released during flow state as well. I think, let's see if I got it. It's dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, norepinephrine, and anandamide. And that's why I like intuitive strength training, because on top of all the physiological benefits that you were just going through, you can also access flow state, which is pretty much the most potent high that we can access. I mean, those 5 chemicals are the major feel-good chemicals of just that feeling of, damn, I feel good. There's no better way to describe it. It just feels amazing. Mm-hmm. And so we all have different ways to access flow state. I love the idea of flow state because I think it's such a powerful communication from some intelligence within us of like what we're meant to be doing in this world, where our innate gifts lie. And so for some people, writing is another one for me, where I'll just be writing for 2 hours and you feel like you're on drugs because you're just flowing, you're just absolutely flowing. I know you can relate to that one. Mm-hmm. Or like even right now, we're having this conversation, a good conversation, that's a flow state inducing activity. And I think a movement practice that feels good and is enjoyable is really low-hanging fruit for creating a flow state activity in your life. That is one of the most enjoyable things.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
I'm looking at Harvard Health, too.
What's Harvard saying?
Harvard says exercise supports nerve cell growth in the hippocampus, improving nerve cell connections, which helps relieve depression. Explains Dr. Miller. Bro. There it is.
Yeah. We're meant to move.
We're meant to move.
We're meant to move our bodies. We're meant to get that blood flowing, move our lymph system. You know, that's how we detox the body as well, moving our lymph system. And so, yeah, I think movement can solve a lot of the mental issues that people are dealing with. Some of them are a little more nuanced and require very specific care. But I think, yeah, people would be shocked how much of a mental upgrade they can get. And I know so many people have experienced this, where after you get a good workout, you just feel good. You feel confident. You know, you feel more social. And yeah, it's one of those felt experiences where, again, the studies are clearly showing some type of magic is happening when you move your body. But also, if you just once you build that practice, it's undeniable. You don't need anybody else to tell you the magic of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting conversation because also there's the idea of forcing, non-forcing. We're talking about that effortless action. And there's also the idea of discipline.
Yeah.
And how that factors in.
I would love to talk about that.
So it's like, well, if I don't feel like working out, you're telling me I shouldn't? And it's like, how I see it is you have different rivers. You have a large river, huge river. And with that river, it's like, well, if you can direct that current to things that you know will benefit you, sometimes you might actually need to do the thing that your mind doesn't want to do. Because here's the thing. Why would your mind... Let me rephrase that. Why would your soul not want to do the thing that it benefits from? So there's the idea that it's not you that doesn't want to do it. It's, especially at the beginning, the neuronal patterns. It's the way the brain is currently coded that has convinced itself, and it wants to convince you that, hey, bro, let's just not. And so it's like you have to be able to discern with intuition the difference between, do I really not want to work out? Is it my body telling me I intuitively need rest? Mm-hmm. Or is it just like I have this resistance because
lethargy?
It's a little bit harder.
Yeah.
You know? And so when we're talking about intuition, that also plays a factor into it. It's discernment, the ability to discern between, no, that's the egoic mind. That's actually maybe even the subconscious mind that has the repetitive pattern of the past of where I didn't work out. And so it might feel like you're fighting that at the beginning. But if you direct the stream, you direct the current into one where you know it's going to benefit you, and you start to do it, you might have to force yourself. But it's like there's so much power in being able to control the mind to the extent of, okay, well, now I'm doing something that I know will benefit me. That induces confidence. And then that confidence translates. So you might actually have to force yourself really into a flow state in a sense at the beginning. But then that's only a season. That's how I see it. It's like that might be your winter. And your spring might come along once you take the time to consistently commit. And it's really about commitment. That's a true commitment to the craft. And I think that commitment is what is missing in our culture. The commitment to something greater than even just yourself. It's like maybe the reason why you're being called to work out is not just for you. What if it's actually for your family, so that when shit goes down, you're strong enough to be able to do the things that you need to do to provide for your family? How about that for a why, instead of just to look good for women? How about you actually are going through this process to help other people with their bodies? Because once you sculpt yours, other people will look at you and say, oh man, How does he think? What is he doing? I feel some sort of truth in what they're doing. I resonate with that. I want to explore that. So then you make a trickle-down effect on humanity. So it's not just about looking good for the sake of looking good. It's not just about working out for working out. It's to provide for the women and the children of the world. It's to provide for those older people that are in positions where they can't provide for themselves in a state where shit goes down. And so when you think about those things too, it's like that why is greater.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you actually tap into power. That's another thing that I think a lot of people aren't thinking about. There's an energetic power that you get from stepping into that archetype, for being someone who others can rely on. It's as though we are supported in that endeavor. I think we're here to do that. I think we're here to be that for other people. Some of us are. Some of us aren't. It's clear. And I think, well, maybe even we can say some people aren't choosing to not. Maybe we all are for each other, dormantly within us. And it doesn't matter where you start. I mean, I started at 315 pounds. Now I'm 180. It doesn't matter if you start at 20 pounds overweight. But that commitment to a vision of humanity that is greater than just one person. Imagine if everyone did that. Imagine if everyone lived that way. Imagine if everyone lived in harmony. Our society is only a byproduct of the way that each individual is living. Mm-hmm. And that's what people don't understand. It's like, no, it's about you, but it's also about everybody else. But you have to do your part. You can't complain about the way the world is when you aren't doing the things that you know you need to be doing. Because isn't that hypocritical? For one to say, I wish the world was different. It should be different is the big one. It should be different than it is. But what if it's designed this way on purpose? Mm-hmm. What if the world is supposed to be hard at the beginning so that we can learn to make it easy through our own inner strength, developing the inner strength through the process of life? If it was easy, nobody would develop it. What would we be doing? I bet you there are planets out there where you just fuck off and you're just chilling. You remember everything. You don't forget when you come in. You're just chilling. But I think we came here to play this game because there is a deep knowing that we all have, I believe, of a satisfaction that comes from doing things in an environment, in a game that's designed where it seems like things are happening against us. But really those objects, those people are serving us in a bizarre yet beautiful way because they're serving the creator to create the villain so that we can arise. And without the villain, we wouldn't have this experience. And so we need them, in a sense, to do that at this point in the evolution of humanity or of consciousness. And I don't think it's always going to be like this. I think that there's going to be a point. We look at the yuga cycles of Sri Yukteswar and Kriya Yoga, and we see that we're on expansion packs, baby. Like, this thing is going up. Mm-hmm. This thing is going up into a golden age. It's a 25,000 year cycle. It might be one of those times where you plant the fruit, you plant the tree, but you don't get to sit in the shade in this life. Nice. And that's okay. And if you can accept that, imagine the type of power you have to know that you are someone who's come to this planet and you're not going to be able to fully sit in the shade in this life, but you're still doing it anyways. What type of person does it take? It takes a high fucking level person. But I think if we went that way as a society, and I think we're getting that, more people are realizing, you're going to sit in some shade. I mean, you're going to have, if you really get after it and you embody the highest level version of you, you're going to have shade in this life to some respect. It's not going to be all next life. But it's going to be difficult, but then it becomes easy because you've become stronger.
Yeah.
It's the idea that if we're training, if the human game is essentially kind of like a training ground, then if we want to cultivate strength, if we want to cultivate discipline, if we want to cultivate and be the highest level version of us, it's not just going to be fucking zapped into our bodies and, oh, I am all of a sudden compassionate and I've got it all figured out. It's like, no, you're given the opportunity. Mm-hmm. You're given the opportunities in your external right now to be that. And so it's like, people just want to be given the strength, but nothing gives you that strength. That strength comes from within you. Mm-hmm. And everything is giving you the opportunity to tap into that inner strength and compassion in a world that seems like it's not going well. and in your own micro life of the inner strength, the inner courage, the opportunity you're given through the external. I mean, look at how many people are suffering because they're seeing life like it shouldn't be this way. But if you're a high-level game player, you can be put in any situation and thrive. Eventually, externally. It doesn't matter where you start because you know that you have that internal power within you and nothing can take that away from you. And so the idea is if you focus on your intrinsic directive of life, your prime directive of life, not being to attain money, not being to have a certain amount of status, not being to impress anybody, but to just become in this present moment, the embodiment of the highest level version you can be, in that sense of greatness that I think we all feel internally. If you can do that, and if you can focus your life on that, everything else is a byproduct of that. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the Bible, it'll tell you, seek ye the kingdom of heaven and its righteousness, and everything will be given to you. And everything will be added unto you, I think is the exact verse. Different translations. And I think that speaks, and I'm not religious in that sense. I'm not Christian. That speaks to the byproduct of greatness, the byproduct of being your highest level self is abundance. Mm-hmm. Because your highest level self is abundant by its nature. It doesn't need to seek it because it is it. And so the paradox is, if you embody the higher level self now, you already are inherently at the resonance of abundance. And then from that space, you feel abundant. And then all of the mirror effect of reality, the universe unconditionally supporting you, so to speak, or the universal intelligence, if it is a training ground, has no... my voice is getting a little shot now, but the universal intelligence has no choice but to support you, because why would it not? Because you're doing the highest level thing that you can do. And when you do that, I don't think that there's a personal God that is judging everybody. I think there's a higher self. I think there is God. I think there is a creator. But I think that there's the rest of you outside the game. That's what people call the higher self. It's there, and it's wanting you to be the highest level. And when you are, it no longer has to program in all of these trainings every day because you've completed the trainings. You are now the fucking Jedi. You are now the fucking master. And you don't need to go through all of the things to give you the inner strength or the courage that eventually you would get when you eventually commit. It's like, oh, if you just commit, then it happens. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've seen that in my own life. It's like everything keeps coming around to get me to train. And when I resist the training, I still got to train eventually. And that goes into movement and physical, but it's also spiritual, mental, psychological, all of philosophical, all of these trainings. And so I think the idea of it being training until we become the highest level version, and then it unlocks, is a profound one that gives life a deep inherent meaning to it, instead of it being, well, shit just happens. We got to do the best we can with what. No, there's something deeper. I've seen too many times how there's synchronicities that are ridiculously so out of the chance of it being a statistical coincidence. The song that comes on, and you're just like, fuck, I'm in a game. And there's something bigger than me happening here.
Yeah. I love hanging out with you because you recognize synchronicities more than I do. And and then, you know, what they say about synchronicities, the more you recognize them, the more they start to really build into your day-to-day life. And then, yeah, you can just kind of get that little nod that you're on the right track. And yeah, there's definitely an intelligence helping us out. And I think especially when we do tune into the opportunities that are presented to us the challenges, the healthy challenges, and we embrace them, something magical happens when we embrace life. Another siren coming through.
So happens when you're recording outside.
Yeah. Hope everybody's all right.
Obviously there's something happening.
But no, I think that was a beautiful monologue.
Dude, sorry, monologue.
No, it was so good, bro.
Sometimes it fucking happens.
It's so good because, yeah, we really see life in such a similar way, and it's been so cool connecting with you over the past couple months. We just met a couple months ago, and already we're just creating such cool things together. And I know that's going to happen for many, many years to come. So, yeah, it's been an honor, brother. But
likewise. Yeah. You kicked my ass in pickle. Sometimes I get a win. Sometimes it comes out. Not every time. Every once in a while. But dude.
We might want to play a match after this.
Maybe. My knee's a little...
Mm-hmm.
I can feel my knee... I don't know if it's like this position. I can feel it like I'm like trying to stretch it out.
Gotta get you activated, bro.
I don't know what it is. I just hope it's nothing major going on with my knee.
No, that's another thing that we should talk about really quick about the body, is that the body is so resilient, and with the correct inputs will balance itself out. So if you are dealing with some chronic issues out there, I want you to know that you are fixable and healable, and it might not be as far away as you feel. It might just be one simple movement that you do for a few sets a day for a couple weeks, and then that chronic pain might be a thing of the past. I guarantee you we can fix your knee in no time with that movement. We only did one set today, but you felt the magic right afterwards. So if you put that into practice for a couple weeks, your knee pain will be a thing of the past. I'm pretty confident in that.
Yeah, I mean, you really helped fix my elbow. I don't experience much back pain at all anymore.
Beautiful.
So it's worked so far. This just came up in the last couple days, and I think it's because I haven't been doing a lot of lower body specifically.
It's easy to slack on the lower body from time to time.
Now I'm going to get the stigma. He doesn't do legs. Listen, I do legs. I do legs. But yeah, I hadn't been doing it enough for some balance. I think also the outward lateral leg lifts for the IT and even all of this. I mean,
that's a huge one.
One thing I noticed is if you turn the heel up while you're doing the lateral, right? You're like, you're like turning it up like this. It like makes a big difference. Then it's like glute.
Yeah, glute medius.
Instead of as much on the side.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's a perfect example of being intuitive and seeing what feels good in your body and listening to that and following that. And who knows what it'll unlock. I think, people like the most efficient route to the top of the mountain, but there might be, the most efficient route might be slightly meandering as well, and going down a dead end so that you're that much closer to finding that true path, and allow yourself to journey down roads that are unfamiliar in order to gain more awareness and eventually become a master of your own body. That's my goal for everybody that I work with, is to empower them to be their own coach and to know their body on such a deep level that they don't need me or anybody to tell them.
We're out here creating leaders.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
For sure.
So people have that master morality, as Nietzsche would say. It's like, you're the master of yourself.
I love that. Nietzsche said that. Cool.
Well, that's a whole rabbit hole of slave morality versus master morality.
Oh, that's where it stems from. That type of master.
No. I don't think, when you study him, it's not, to me, he didn't mean it like you're master of, I'm glad we're covering this.
Yeah, let's do it.
What he meant when Nietzsche says when Nietzsche said that he was worried that Christianity led to slave morality versus master morality, it's not the polarity of there only being masters and slaves. It's that when one has master morality, one is the master of their self, in a sense. And they're no longer looking for someone outside of them to tell them what to do.
Yeah, beautiful.
It's not about being a master of someone else. It's about being a master of yourself.
Yeah.
And that's in Beyond Good and Evil.
Yeah, it's just creating your reality with a level of mastery. And I think that's part of the Earth school that we're in is to become that most powerful creator. And it's not about lording over other people, but it is about creating the most harmony within our own lives and allowing that ripple to do what it may.
The thing about school, we need another head after that. The thing about Earth being a school, I don't think is fully true. I think it's partially true. It's a half-truth. I think that Earth is a school up to the sense that once you master it, then the reality is like, it's open.
Game board.
This baby's open.
Yeah.
Like, it's a school up to a point, but then you essentially can graduate during this life. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to have it be the entire... I mean, you're always wanting to be a student. That idea that I'm always a student, sure.
Yes.
But I also think there's a level where you graduate in this life, and then you have a level of power over your internal reality. And then once you have that, then it's more like a game in a sense, where it's like it's like this. It's like World of Warcraft. When you reach level 70 back in the Burning Crusade days, if you reach level 70, you're max level. So then when you're max level, dude, this is such a good analogy. When it's like life is a game, you're in the human game, and when you reach max level, Earth is a school up to that, you could say, if you want to use the school analogy. But after you reach max level, then you got max level tasks that are much beyond all the other things that you would be doing. And that's why you see high level players out there doing things that other people aren't doing, because they're max level in some respect. But there's different archetypes, there's different classes. Everybody's max level is not, oh, we're all just fucking robots and there's only one way that looks. It's unique for every person what max level is. And I'm not even convinced that max level is an overarching thing that is reached in all areas. I think you can be max level in one area of life. Like, because here's what I'm thinking. This is the storm that's happening in my mind. You could make the argument that, well, you could reach enlightenment, so how, if I'm not in enlightenment, am I not max level? And so it's like, oh, well, there's different skill trees, there's different talents, there's different levels for different areas of your life. So if you reach max level in one area of your life, being the body, then you have max level tasks, then you have max level rewards in a sense that you get from being that in that area of life. But that doesn't mean that you're max level in all areas of life. I think there's only been like a handful of people. I don't even know if it's max level in all areas. I can't even give an example. I mean, a lot of people would say, well, Christ was max level. I'd say Christ was spiritually max level, but we don't know if Christ was yoked or not. You know, we don't know if he was yoked or like how his physical status was. So if you're saying max level is max genetic potential aesthetically in one area, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
I don't even know if we're here to do max level in all areas. Maybe we're just uniquely here to express a max level in one area, to inspire others like that. That's why I love the Enneagram, because the Enneagram is like, okay, in the unconscious, in Carl Jung's work, he has the unconscious. There's a collective unconscious, then there's a personal unconscious. The collective unconscious holds archetypes. And so with the Enneagrams, you have 9 different main archetypes that humans express themselves through. So someone who is a challenger is going to express max level very differently as a challenger than an investigator would, a max level investigator. So I don't even, with that thought being the foundation, it's like, well, is there a max level that can be achieved all around? Maybe. I don't know if anybody's ever done it. I definitely haven't. So it's like, maybe we're here to reach max level, and that's the beauty of the Enneagram too. When you reach a max level in your archetype, you progress to the positive traits of another archetype. And I've never heard any system talk about that, and I think it's profound. So if I'm a 7 enthusiast, which I am, then I take on the positive traits of a 5 as my next level up. Mm-hmm. So then eventually you go around the board and reach max level in all the archetypes. And so, again, I don't know if it's possible, but it's like a valiant journey. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's an interesting journey. That's a profound journey. That's an adventure I want to take.
Yeah. Yeah, beautifully said, bro. I like the idea as well of, in every moment we can make it, and again, tuning back to intuition and surrender. I was having a conversation with a friend today about surrender. I think we were talking about that. Yeah, we were talking about that a couple days ago as well. That idea of trusting and surrendering to the opportunities that exist and making decisions based on what feels true in that moment. And you can, whatever level, let's say, that you're at, you can be tuned to that true north. And there's all, I think it really goes infinitely, because the greatest games are the ones that last forever. And so if we can just be on that path where we can surrender a little bit to not knowing exactly what might be the best thing for us, and this is another half, maybe half truth, but there's a certain perspective where like I had recently, where I had to really confront my own desires and realize maybe I can't even fully comprehend my desires, because maybe they're coming from a incomplete place, or an incomplete picture that my physical mind can perceive. But there's a greater intelligence that has way better plans for me. And so my desires could be limited in a certain sense. You see what I'm saying?
Dude, I'm so glad that you made that point, because the max level self, the highest level version of us, what does it even look like? It's abstract. Mm-hmm. The highest level version might be the one that is surrendered to the will of the Most High. Mm-hmm. More and more and more and more. Maybe max level doesn't mean that you know how it's all going to work out. It's that you trust that it is going to work out, and that you don't need to know the full thing of how it's going to work out. And you see the profound beauty of not needing to know the whole thing, because the Creator or the universal intelligence already has that on lock. And I also think there's truth to, when we become more responsible, we are able to see more of the picture. But I also don't think that that's linear. Mm-hmm. I don't think that it's always that case. I think that sometimes our destiny, or I don't even want to say destiny, I'll say sometimes the path that we're headed down is so massive that it's better that we don't know. Yeah. Because I might fuck it up if I know what I'm being called to do eventually. And so to keep me in the dark, there's a point where I think you understand. Like you feel this sense of peace with, like, okay, I understand. Look, I trust. It's like you're always trusting in something. Mm-hmm. Right? There's no such thing as distrust. There's only trust in things. And if you trust the distrust, that's still trust.
That's still trust.
So you might as well trust the one that is breathing you. Mm. You might as well trust the one that beats your heart. That there is a greater reason why what's happening in your life is happening.
Yeah.
And that you don't need to know the full thing You don't need to know. See, the Buddha was big on there being questions that you can't answer. So he would refer, as, from my remembrance, he would have questions that are unanswerable questions, he would call them, or something similar. And so when people ask the questions, there's just rabbit holes. So it's like one of the rabbit hole questions, one of the unanswerable questions that keeps people suffering is the why.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you get out of that? You actually surrender the why. You surrender the why to, look, I trust. And I can try to linearly, logically figure out the why. But what if I just accepted everything that had happened up to this point and just embodied my highest level self now? Would that make me my highest level self now?
You could say. In a certain way.
Unless you're defining your highest level self by external circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the trick. It's like you can embody your highest level self right now, but if you're relying on the outside world to tell you that you are that in order to validate you being the highest level self, you aren't going to be able to do it at the beginning, because the world isn't designed, the external world isn't designed to be one that reflects in every moment. I think that eventually you can get to that point where you can move mountains with the faith of a mustard seed, so to speak. I think that it's possible, but I think that it's also good that every thought that we think we have of what we think we want doesn't manifest instantly. How much bullshit?
Oh.
How much bullshit we have, a lot.
Yeah, and we like a little surprise every now and again. We like to be surprised by life, and when you meet your dream girl, you're probably not gonna expect it. It's probably just gonna land in your lap in the most unexpected moment ever. But if you're open to it, you're gonna recognize it, and you're gonna go say hello.
If you've chosen to step in enough to do that.
Yeah.
I've had a real problem. Real problem. I wouldn't say problem, but it had been a struggle for a while for me to approach women because I'd been so on my own. I've been doing my own thing for a long time. And so I think that's a skill too. And it's like we can cultivate that skill just by realizing, this is what I told you the other day, right? That people are just you in another body. Think about that. If everybody else is just you in another body, why are you scared to talk to yourself? At Whole Foods, or a woman or a man. It's like having that perspective of seeing the divinity within everyone, but also seeing the inherent awareness that exists within them and you. It's the same. It releases the charge. And then it comes back to the 4 agreements. Do you remember the 4 agreements? Let's go!
Always, this is probably in the wrong order. Always try your best. Make no assumptions. Or don't take anything personally.
Both of those, yeah. Both of those are 2
different?
of them.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
Those are 2 different ones.
And then, what's the last one?
Well, you got it.
Something about gratitude?
No.
Okay. What is it?
Be impeccable with your word.
Of course. Beautiful. I love that one.
And so, I was in the sauna. Shout out to Sedona Infrared Sauna, which is about to open. They've been letting me and Trey use the sauna. It's a good friend of ours, dear friends of ours, Clarissa and David, who own the place, and they're about to open. And I've been in that sauna a lot, and I was listening to my friend talk about the 4 agreements, Joey, and the 2 that were like, you weren't sure if they were the same one, those are the big ones for me. Don't take anything personally.
Yeah.
Like really.
Massive.
Really don't take anything personally.
Good and bad. That's the key, right?
Oh shit.
Praise or shame. That's one way to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When people love or hate you.
Or, yeah.
Don't take it personally. I see, so many men are afraid to approach women because they're going to take it personal. And then don't make any assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make any assumptions, bro.
Yeah.
How much are you assuming? How much am I assuming? Shit is going a certain way.
Yeah.
So those two have been massive for me. You got a bumblebee just right next to you, mate.
Yeah, you can't know for sure unless you ask a couple questions, right? And it's usually as simple as that, right? Rather than overthinking five exchanges down the line and then it ending in disaster and rejection, which is it's not going to happen. I promise you, it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, it just takes a little icebreaker and talking about stuff that you enjoy about life, and then next thing you know, you find some compatibility and you're riding off into the sunset happily ever after. Or not. Maybe you have to try that a few times. But yeah, you talk about closing the loops, and I think that's a profound perspective of just if you continue to build that habit of closing loops in your mind just going to find out what's on the other side of a desire to go speak to somebody. You know, there's a reason that the law of attraction would say there's a reason why you're attracted to somebody, man or woman. It's like you see an interesting looking lady. Yeah, there's something there for you. Or you see a guy, maybe there's a business opportunity waiting to happen, or the idea of beauty, you know, the beauty way, turning into what you find beautiful, going to the most beautiful places that you can find, and seeing why that sense of beauty was built into you. It's guiding you somewhere for a reason. Go find out what it is, or forever wonder why. What could have been.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
One of the truest things I've ever heard is that the truth is either attractant or repellent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a filter.
The truth is either an attractant or a repellent. And either way, you want that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not being your authentic self with, let's say, a girl or a guy, with someone, you're not being your authentic self and you're putting on a persona, you're actually going to be hiding. You're not going to be happy. It's going to be like, oh, I'm trying to be someone for someone else, and you're abandoning yourself. How tragic is that when you abandon yourself because you think this is what someone else is going to be? And the truth is that there is someone out there for you, the real you. And the louder you speak, the real you, the more that person hears it. You could say that energetically, or you could say that literally.
Hmm.
And it's like, that person is there. That person exists, and that person is out there. And so if you try
many people.
Well, many people, a lot of people. But if you don't be that authentic self, then that person will never find you.
Yeah.
That person will never know that you exist. And then you put yourself in this box, and then it's this weird thing where you're abandoning yourself, but they like that version of you. But then eventually, you know, you're not going to be able to hold it up forever. And you're just like, oh God, what did I get myself into? What is this convoluted thing that I created because I didn't just want to be my authentic self because I was scared that someone wouldn't like who I truly am. And if they don't, and if it's a repellent, let it be a repellent. That's good. Because then you're one step closer. You've closed one more loop for that true, authentic friend. Friend, you could say, relationship to come in. Mm-hmm. You're one step closer because you closed the loop because you were authentic. That's the beauty of it. When you're authentic, that's when you close the loop. Because you can close the loop and, you know, it's like hard. It can feel really fucking hard to be who you actually are around people at first if you're not even really sure yourself. Yeah. And so I think that, closing the loops is really important, bro. It is so important. And being the authentic self, there's nothing in my experience more liberating than being authentically than who you are, truly your unique individuation. Or really, individuation being what Carl Jung called my voice is given a ton now, but individuation being your whole self. Individuation is the process of becoming your whole self, according to Carl Jung. Mm-hmm. The whole self. And when we embody that, I think that part of the reason why a lot of people are looking for relationships, like if you want to experience that, beautiful. But you might be looking for it because you want to feel whole.
Find wholeness, yeah.
Through someone else. Because as a man, maybe you're suppressing your inner feminine and you're looking for that in someone else because you think you need to be something. That comes back to the hieros gamos, which is an esoteric principle. Carl Jung used to talk about it. It's in alchemy. It's this idea that the union of a whole man and a whole woman is very different than just a masculine man looking for a feminine woman. It's completely different. And I think people don't realize that. They think that union is just a man and a woman coming together, just like a mess. No. It goes much deeper than that. You know, so I think authenticity is an incredible superpower. And I think that people are attracted to authenticity even more than anything, or they're repelled. And if they're repelled, that's great. You know, I've lost like 20,000 followers, 30,000 followers over the years, and I've gained more. And I'm glad to lose people I'm glad that people unfollow me for who I really am. I'm glad that they do, because then that means they weren't for me anyways. So it's better to just find that out sooner, rather than put on this persona and then I'm this person that people like because I'm putting on half of me. But then on the inside, you hear about so many creators that are like, oh, I feel like I can't express my full self. They put themselves in a prison and only they have the key.
Beautiful.
So the key to get out of the prison is just fucking showing up as a whole person, as you truly are, your authentic self.
Unapologetically,
bro.
That's it.
And then I think everything else is a byproduct of that.
Yeah.
And then if you're like, well, I don't even know what I want to do with my life. Well, if you start expressing yourself authentically, you'll figure out what you don't want. And then you're one step closer to figuring out what you do want. Because sometimes in life, we have to figure out what we don't want. We have to experience what we don't want. Not only to appreciate, like if you don't have a lot of money, you really appreciate when you have a lot. But also, other aspects of life are the same. And I think that so many of us choose the path of not having the physical, material reality that we desire in order to experience the contrast, to learn, to be given the opportunity to step fully in, and then to be able to appreciate it as we eventually attain that. And then that journey is profound. I mean, that's kind of life. In a sense, it's like, well, if you get to the destination, it's amazing. But I think that even as hard as it might fucking feel, one of the things that I think, and we'll finish up, but one of the things I think is perpetuated even by masculine figures online a lot, popular masculine figures, is the idea that you just need to get angry and fucking work and be productive. What kind of fucking life is that? It's like, and they're saying that's strong. It's strong to drink 16 coffees and be fucking mad and just get shit done. Is that strong? Or are you too weak to do it in a balanced way? Are you too weak to do the same thing without it? And to do it from a place of love? It's the hardest thing to do it from a place of compassion. And they act like it's hard to do it from a place of anger. But it's like, wait, there's levels to this shit. I mean, if you want to start there, but that's not the end all be all. I think the end all be all is that we want to enjoy the process of being alive, the process of time passing. And I think that there is a way to do it without fucking drinking 16 coffees and being fucking pissed just to be productive. And if you need that, do it. But I don't think that that's the highest level that we can attain. I think that there's a space that we can attain that is, oh, I'm getting sunlight in the morning. I'm getting my feet on the ground, mate. I'm getting my feet on the ground.
Taking a few deep breaths.
I'm taking a fucking deep breath.
Yeah.
I'm breathing the motherfucking air, like, deeply. And then I'm getting my hormones in balance. I'm getting my body in balance. I'm eating correctly. I'm eating when I wake up. I'm not going to let eating stop me. I don't need coffee all the time to do things. And maybe I'll have some, but I don't need 16. And I think it's stronger to do it that way. And to be the same amount of productive. That is true strength. In the darkness, it is true strength to do it in that way. That's what I see. But my voice is back.
Yes.
And that's the episode of The Human Game.
We did
it. Subscribe. Subscribe to the podcast, The Human Game.
Too good.
We're going to be here a lot longer. This was a great conversation. I'm just going to say I love this conversation. Thank you to Trey for coming on the podcast. Great episode. We're going to do it again. It's going to be great. It's going to be huge.
Brother.
Second time, huge. Third time, huge. First time, huge.
So good, man. Thank you for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love the way you think. And I'm so looking forward to continued conversations in the future. You need some help, bud?
Yeah, man. No, I'm good. I'm just contemplating my life.
For those listening, Nicholas just completely fell through the bottom of his chair.
I kind of like this. I can use it as a rocking chair. It feels good. Very nice.
Too good.
I can't even believe that I fell through this chair, dude. I mean, we knew this chair was bad. It was the only chair we had. We did the best we could. I think it was a great episode. I'm very happy. You're awesome, man. I appreciate you so much.
Me too,
Appreciate
brother.
you being here. Appreciate you being alive. And those with us, I appreciate you being alive. I appreciate you doing the things that you're doing. I know that you're out here getting it. You're getting after it. Let's fucking go. Life can feel difficult, but we're here to fucking level up, baby.
Time
The
to
human
level
game.
up.
It's the motherfucking human game. Now, I'm gonna get the fuck out of this chair. I fell through the chair,
How
bro.
did that happen? Right when we were finishing up. I think this is kind of meant to be.
Absolute synchronicity.
That's a bit of a synchronicity.
All right, bro. We'll be back next time. Human Game. Subscribe. Stick around. If you enjoyed this podcast, you got value from it, drop a motherfucking like, bitch. Let me know what you think down below. What topics are you fucking interested in, mine? I think this was probably the best fitness episode I've ever had. I mean, yeah, we hit so many good topics, but of course it's like an infinite game. There's many more rabbit holes to hit, but
Oh, yeah.
we'll see you on the next episode of The Human Game. Until then,
y'all.
peace. Peace. Now how the fuck do I get out this chair? Hell yeah. What a fucking way to
That
end
was so fucking classic.
it. Look at this. Right through it. This
Can't-
is David's
can't-
chair too.
Can't make that shit up.